Right. Hello.
Hello. Back.
Yeah, I thought I'd record this one as it's been a while since we've done it. And I think this battle is suitably different from the norm in terms of the period. So we normally do early Tudors, and this is, well, mid, I suppose, isn't it?
1539 is our latest Tudor game we've done so far, right?
Yeah, and you know, I pushed out all the stops and provided 2 units.
For the Tudor army, you got three in the Irish.
Yeah,
3 in the Irish army. That's pretty good.
Got some great cattle donated by Simon.
Yeah.
And
yeah, they look the part.
It's just great to see, you know, the bulk of your army with all the conversions that are in there, and you know, we look forward to the day when we don't have to convert so much. But
yeah, there's been a lot of they're quite unique, these armies, aren't they? We've got a lot of stuff's been converted and changed, especially to make the cavalry.
So the battle is
Bellahoe, 1539.
Okay.
So yeah, basically, this Irish history in this period is quite confusing.
Yeah.
But there'd been a rebellion of the Fitzgeralds. Fitzgeralds were the Earls of Kildare and were the kind of premier lords who ruled Ireland from the late 15th century into the 16th century. However, in the 1530s, the Tudor regime and the Fitzgeralds clashed, and with the rebellion of Silken Thomas, left a sort of power vacuum. And in this, to sort of fill the power vacuum, the English had sent a Lord Deputy, a chap called Leonard Grey. Thomas Grey. He's the brother of Thomas Grey, who, I don't know if you...
He's appeared in some of our
other games. The Marquess of Dorset, who led the 1512 campaign into Spain and France, which we've done on the tabletop. And Leonard Grey was his brother, who fought in that campaign. He was in the 1522 and 1523 campaigns in France, but he was commander of an army in his own right in Ireland in this period. I think he was quite brutal. He
quite an unpleasant man.
Yes, he captured Carrigogunnel Castle in 1536, and there was a bit of a massacre that he boasted about. And he was the first person to cut paths through the forests in Ireland to use his wheeled artillery, bringing guns to places they'd never been brought before, as he was trying to subdue the Gaelic septs. But basically what had happened was that the Fitzgeralds had been crushed. The sister of the great Earl, the 8th Earl, Eleanor, was she called Eleanor? I've got this written down because this does get confusing, was married to Manus O'Donnell. So two of the big Gaelic clans were the O'Donnells and the O'Neills. And the sister had married Manus O'Donnell, and she'd had a son who was the sort of next heir to the Fitzgerald heir. And the O'Neills and the O'Donnells, Lady Eleanor was daughter of the great Earl of Kildare, the 8th Earl, so sister of the 9th Earl of Kildare. And she married Manus O'Donnell, and they formed a kind of union called the Geraldine League between the O'Donnells and the O'Neills, who were normally great rivals in Ulster. But they formed a union because they were kind of scared by the English trying to assert their authority in Ireland. And following raids by Leonard Grey, the Irish had struck back in 1539, and they where did they burn? They burnt some of the English towns. Ardee and Navan in the Pale, around Dublin. And as they were returning with all their cattle and booty, Grey raised an army of about 800 men. He had a very small garrison, but he raised a lot of pale levies and stuff, which is why we'll have Kern and Irish horse in both armies in this game, because if you look at these campaigns in the 16th century, the English often employed a lot of Irish troops as well loads, because they didn't have many English in Ireland.
At that point you start to have Anglo-Irish as well, don't you? Or...
Yeah, or at the time they were known as the English of Ireland.
Right.
It's quite interesting, yeah. So yeah, basically, so it was in a raiding army of Gaelic Irish. They raided into the Pale in 1539, and Leonard Grey caught them at the ford of Bellahoe as they were returning laden with booty, and he attacked them and with about 800 men. And although most of the Irish leaders escaped, about 400 of the Irish were killed, and it was seen as a big victory for the English in Ireland.
What was the size of the Irish army then?
Hard to find out. I couldn't find out exactly what it was, to be honest. I mean,
Possibly larger then?
yeah, it could be larger, but then it could be quite different composition, because the English did have some garrison troops. We're going to represent it with a kind of mix, aren't we, of like 15. Like,
so it's reminds me of Solway Moss then, in a similar way, I suppose. But
yeah, well, I guess they were all, the Irish were in camp and they got attacked at dawn and sort of couldn't organise themselves. Otherwise, they'd probably be quite adept at slipping away from the English, to be fair. But Grey had campaigned for about 4 years in Ireland by then, so he was obviously a bit more wily as to how to catch them. We don't think that many of the English were killed. There was a chap called, according to Stanihurst, a later Irish chronicler, what's his name? There was a chap who rode along, led the charge, someone from Dublin. I'm trying to find what he was. Black James Fleming, Baron of Slane, led the attack with a gentleman known as Mape riding by his side. Mape's horse ran amok and carried him into the midst of the Gaelic troops where he was killed. But otherwise, it looks like not too many of the English were killed. The mayors of Dublin and Drogheda were knighted, as well as Thomas Talbot of Malahide and a chap called Gerald Aylmer, who I think was later famous in 16th century Irish history. So there were quite a few characters involved in this. It was a big enough event for Hall, who we often use in all our things, to write, in August, the great O'Neill and O'Donnell entered into the English Pale in Ireland and Brent almost 20 miles within the same. Wherefore the Lord Grey, the deputy there, assembled a great power and met with them the 30th day of August and put them to flight. So that is the game we're going to do. There's a funny postscript to it, in that Grey was also connected to the Fitzgeralds. I think one of his sisters had been married to one of them. And the Butlers, who were the great rivals of the Fitzgeralds, kind of didn't like Grey taking authority, and they transpired to have him done or accused of treason. And Grey himself was executed at the Tower of London in 1541. So 2 years later.
Could say that's karma though, couldn't you?
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
I mean, in talking about the game, basically the Irish have to activate. What we've done is that because they're not expecting to be attacked, we've made it slightly more difficult for them to initially activate.
Yeah.
So they've got to have two activation rolls initially, and then we play as normal. They've got to get from this area of the board over to the other end. And the thing that we've done for a while now in our Irish games is we're doing a dice method. So
from bolt action.
From bolt action, yeah. So a brief summary is you just have a bag with dice for every unit on the board has a dice. You put them all in the bag, shake the bag up, whatever dice comes out, that's the unit that goes. And particularly for the Irish games, it represents some more of the chaotic nature of the warfare, but I think what we've found is it gives the Kern a bit more of a chance because they
die quickly.
They die quickly, because they're unarmoured. And the other thing that we've seen in the last, I can't remember how long I've had it, it's got a year, I think, not quite that, but with the terrain commissions that I've had, this is the first time here, isn't it? So we've tried to make the ground a bit more rough and to provide cover and areas to funnel troops and so on. So
it's still going to be a bloodbath.
It's going to be a bloodbath and chaotic.
It'll be fun though.
Yeah. So
the English haven't deployed yet.
No. Yeah, there's a lot of saffron on the table. It's good.
We've got in the Irish armies we've got Irish noble horse. We've got red shanks because the O'Donnell brought quite a lot of red shanks on this campaign. They're the Scots mercenaries that they hired. We've got Kern, some with armour, a bit of armour, not much. Some arquebusiers. We've got some horse boys. We've got some Gallaglass. That's it, isn't it?
Yeah. Looking forward to it.
Yeah.
All right.
Let's go, man.